Hello everyone, my name is Maria Heller and this is my second video about my corset collection featuring custom printed fabric with classical artworks. I designed a corset intended to be made out of custom printed fabric and the print I chose is a classical painting. I printed 4 different artworks. 2 of them were featured in my last video and the remaining 2 are going to be the focus of this video. I really hope you'll enjoy watching me design and create. The first step in making this project was one of the hardest, and that was to choose the artworks I wanted to print. It was difficult because I wanted to choose my favorite pieces of art, but I also had to take other people into consideration and what they would want as customers. On top of that, I had a certain criteria for the composition of the artworks I were to choose. There shouldn't be a single portrait, because that would be difficult to frame in the shape of the corset. But the artwork also shouldn't feature so many characters and things that would become very small when printed in the size of the pattern piece. The aspect ratio of the painting was also a factor. As you can see, the pattern piece of the front of the corset is almost as wide as it is long, but it has a peculiar shape, where it dips in the top center front, but it also narrows a lot in the bottom half. This meant a lot of diddling with the artworks. In the case of this waterhouse painting, Hylas and the nymphs, I had to leave some of the nymphs out of the frame, and I had to lengthen the bottom half of the painting. In case of this Bogoro painting, I had to widen the frame a lot to make the figures fit better on the pattern piece. After I decided on all the artworks and diddled with the aspect ratio of each of them, I had to prepare the entire sheet that was to be printed. The fabric had to be printed on a bolt with a width of 150 centimeters, so I had to think how many times I want each painting to repeat, like a tile, on the entire width and length of the fabric I was commissioning. There was a lot of math involved, and I'm going to spare you the details and just show you how the entire sheet looked like in the end. You can see we have 3 images repeated on the width of the fabric, so each image was printed on a square of 50 by 50 centimeters. We have 6 cupids, 6 muhas, and 9 of each of the waterhouse paintings. Time to go see the fabric get printed. I've been trying to get custom printed fabric for several weeks before succeeding, emailing back and forth with multiple companies, some of which flat out just ignore my emails and social media messages. Anyway, I eventually found a company that was actually willing to do their job. And it just so happened that this company was in the neighboring city, so I really wanted to go and see this fabric get printed, which I was very excited about. This is not a type of fabric printing that leaves a plasticky layer on top of the fabric that will eventually crack and peel off. This is the technique fabric producers use to print almost all fabrics that have a pattern, which you can find in stores all around the world. First, they print on a big sheet of paper, and the print on paper appears very washed out and it's mirrored, but it's going to be a lot more intense once transferred onto fabric. Then the printed paper is transferred to another machine that imprints the ink in the fabric using heat. The resulting fabric is durable and safe to wash and iron. I literally gasped when I saw it coming out of this machine. The colors are so vivid and it looks amazing, right? Also, I added my signature on each and every artwork so that it appears on every corset. It's subtle, but it's there. I don't want this to be a step-by-step tutorial, but it's important for me to show you that I did way more work for these corsets than simply paying someone to print this fabric for me. My partner and I chose the fabric, we chose the paintings, carefully selecting good quality images free of copyright, then I cropped and adjusted the ratio of the artworks in Photoshop as to fit my needs. After the fabric was printed and brought home, Wena did a series of boring but necessary processes that I didn't film. She cut the panels out of the roll and added a thermoadhesive layer to the underside of each of the prints so as to stiffen the fabric. When you make or wear a corset, the last thing you want is to have bones poking out of the fabric. So we stiffened the fabric a bit and filed down and taped the edges of the synthetic whalebone to make sure that it never happens. Then each pattern piece was marked out on fabric, then cut, and sewn together with the adjustable side panels, back pieces, straps, and lining layer. After they were put together, the boning channels were marked by hand on each corset, either with soap or vanishing marker, depending on how light or dark that section of the painting was. And then the boning channels were sewn with the appropriate colored thread, often using black on the bottom and the copper color on the top of the corset. Then the synthetic boning was cut by hand to fit each boning channel, and then inserted in the channels. Then the channels were sewn shut, and a bias tape was added to the bottom of the corset. After that, around 28 eyelets were added by hand to each corset, and then the corset was laced. Also, the corsets needed to be sprayed with water to remove the blue vanishing marker that was used to mark out the boning channels. And it was ironed to straighten the boning, which tends to stay curved from how it's rolled. Nobody likes talking about money, but for these corsets there was so much work to be done even before I could touch the resulted fabric, so many hours of composition and computer work and hounding down suppliers, that in the end all this is reflected in the price as well. Please stay tuned to see a collaboration with one of my favorite photographers. I really hope you liked this video. Please give it a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye! Așa, invers, așa, stai așa.